Okay.
All right, Chiro Gold interview here again. And today we're going to continue on and we're going to get into principle 21 and maybe 22 here and continue our journey through these 33 principles with, of course, some expert knowledge from the one and only Dr. Joe Strauss. So thank you again for joining us.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes, good to have you. All right, so principle 21. I'll read it again here, and then we'll get your thoughts. And I got a few thoughts and comments on this as well. But principle 21 is the mission of innate intelligence. And it just simply says here, the mission of innate intelligence is to maintain the material of the body of a living thing in active organization. That's pretty straightforward and pretty simple. So your thoughts, comments on that one?
Yeah, I think this gets us into really what I think is the most important aspect of chiropractic. In fact, I was at a seminar last weekend, and the speaker was talking about the mission of chiropractic, and he said that the mission of chiropractic is really the same as the objective of chiropractic. And of course, that's it says to maintain the material of a living thing, and that's in quote, in active organization. So our objective is to maintain the organism in active organization, or maintain the living thing in active organization. So that's really what our principle is, our mission is in chiropractic. And it's right. Funny, if I can demonstrate or explain a little bit about what I was doing last night, was watching a baseball game. And in fact, I didn't get to bed till almost midnight because I was watching the game. And maybe some of the viewers don't know, but the Phillies, which is of course my team. I've been a Phillies fan since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And that's the first I got exposed to baseball, and I've been a Phillies fan then for the last 45 years or more. And the Phillies have picked up a new player. Of course, we know that the mission in baseball is to win the World Series, and that's a baseball team's mission. Only one will succeed in that mission.
Right.
And the Phillies just picked up a new player this past month from the Washington Nationals, and they expect him to be the key to them winning it all. And so that's the mission of chiropractic. Mission of chiropractic is to maintain the matter of a living thing in active organization.
Right.
And we sometimes, as chiropractors, fail to understand or recognize or acknowledge or that mission as far as we are in chiropractic. And I mean, if I can just get off of baseball for a minute and get back to the mission of chiropractic. I heard a chiropractor, two chiropractors, they were doing a seminar many years ago on chiropractic, and they used the analogy of they described chiropractic as or the analogy of chiropractic as the uncola. Did you ever hear that?
I've heard the phrase uncola being referred to, like, I think 7-Up or something like that.
Right.
But I've never heard it applied to chiropractic.
And I think that's what these two chiropractors were doing a seminar. And in fact, one of them is as since passed on, but he described chiropractic as the uncola. And he said the problem that we have in chiropractic is that we try to compare chiropractic to a cola, or we try to compare chiropractic to medicine. And he said,
Yeah.
what we need to do is to realize that we're not in the same ball game as
Right.
the practice of medicine. And he used that analogy, but he said that once that 7 Up, what they began to promote themselves as the Uncola, and their slogan was, no caffeine, never had caffeine, and never will. And he's in explaining the analogy of chiropractic, he said chiropractors tend to try to compare themselves to the practice of medicine. I think that's where we in the practice of chiropractic have run into problems, as we try to explain what we do in the field of medicine. And that's like saying, that 7 Up tastes like Coca-Cola.
Right.
7 Up tastes like Coca-Cola. And the problem is that we don't recognize the fact that that's not our objective, to compare ourselves or to duplicate the effort of
Yes.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And he said that I don't know whether that's affected 7 Up or whether that's made them more popular, but they have decided to get away from that idea of comparing themselves with cola, and we should begin to get away from the idea of comparing ourselves with the practice of medicine. And yet, unfortunately, many in our profession have continued to do that over the years. And right away, when chiropractors found that they could duplicate the effects or the successes of the practice of medicine, they began to do that and began to compare ourselves and began to adopt the objective or the mission of the practice of medicine is to get sick people well. And they found that, that's how DD was successful in getting a person with a medical condition, naming Harvey Lillard, with deafness, and that was able to be addressed and had success with that. And so chiropractors began to do that. And of course, we got into trying to get ourselves acknowledged by or recognized or accepted by the government agencies. And right away, we just decided to try to get licensing and recognition that way. And we began to adopt the mission or the objective of medicine, which was to get sick people well. And we, of course, we got a lot of flack from the medical profession and trying to do that. And laws were set up, laws that prevented chiropractors from doing that kind of thing. And what we seem to be doing for the last 75 or 100 years is trying to gain acceptance in the medical field. That's like 7 Up trying to gain acceptance as a cola. And it tastes like a cola, doesn't look like a cola. It doesn't have the effects or have the taste of a cola. And in trying to do that, we have become, we've lost a lot of the success that we had when Harvey Lillard got well from his hearing problem by being adjusted by D.D. Palmer. And so chiropractors were, in fact, prevented in the early years. I know in the state of Pennsylvania, chiropractors were prevented from duplicating the practice of medicine, and we were not allowed to treat medical conditions
Right.
that were conditions that were taken care of by medical doctors, and and we in straight chiropractic said, fine, that's not our objective. Our objective or our mission in chiropractic is to correct subluxations. That is to restore, as Stevenson says in his chiropractic textbook, uh, the mission or the objective of chiropractic is to enable the innate intelligence of the body to maintain the material of the body of a living thing in active organization. That is our mission, and that's where our mission begins, or our objective, I should say, begins and ends with that mission. And as long as we try to promote ourselves as an alternative to medicine, we'll have the same lack of success that
Right.
that
7-Up did have comparing itself to Coke.
in trying to compare itself to Coke. And what we need to do is to get out of that objective or get out of that mission and establish our own identity, our own mission. And what these speakers were saying, until they do that, will have to be compared to the practice of medicine. And we can see from where we are right now in chiropractic that we have tried to do that and to compare ourselves to the practice of medicine. And the best we've been able to do is take care of bad backs and stiff necks. And that's not exactly what we want to do in chiropractic. And I don't think that's what the chiropractic profession as a whole wants to do. As long as we're still in that mission, still have that objective that the medical profession has, will not be successful, not have the success that they did. And I got to thinking about this after watching that game last night. This new player that the Phillies got from Washington, he became a free agent, and of course he was able to establish he could go where he could pay them up. And he said in one interview that he had coming to Philadelphia when he was signing a deal with Philadelphia, he said what he wanted to do was spend the rest of his life in one place. And so he wanted enough money. He wanted to make enough money that he could spend the rest of his life in one place. And that meant sign what I would say would be a lifetime contract. And so we have to pay him a lifetime contract to get him to stay in Philadelphia, and they expect that he's going to hopefully bring a World Series to the city of Philadelphia again. Something they haven't done for a long time. And I guess they felt that the $1 million contract that he given him would be satisfied to the economics of the Philadelphia baseball team, and would be satisfactory to him and his family that he could spend the rest of his life in Philadelphia. And I think spending your rest of your life in Philadelphia, or at least in the Philadelphia area where he could reach the ballpark every day,
there you go,
would be worthwhile to him. And probably and the money that the difference in the money he would make would be satisfactory.
He'll be okay. He won't be clipping coupons.
Right, his family. and so that's what he decided to do, to accept that contract. And So it remains to be seen whether that's going to be successful or not. Of course, we know that baseball is nine players,
Yeah.
but I think that it seems like the players have accepted him,
Yeah.
and
Nice.
I guess any that aren't happy with that situation will, when they become free agents, will sign or somebody else
Yeah.
will sign. Meanwhile, they seem to be playing better. Won. They've only played 4 games this year, and they won all 4 of them by very successful scoring,
Nice.
and so
So hopefully it's a big move, and he'll lead them to the championship.
right. That's the objective. That's the mission, and I think that we in chiropractic really need to establish what our mission is. Uh,
Now, when you
that's
look
what.
at this one here, and you look at the mission of innate intelligence and how he has it described here, what I find very interesting is through deductive logic, we can also look at what it's not. He doesn't say that, he clearly says what it is. And so by that reasoning, we can say it's not anything else, meaning so often in chiropractic, and I know you've heard this before, I've heard it many times, people misusing innate intelligence and how they describe what it is. They'll say things like, my innate told me something. It like helped them find a parking spot, or it led them to purchase this particular office location. They personify it. They talk about how their innate speaks to someone else's innate. And, or like we've discussed in previous videos, they make innate intelligence a god. They correlate it with that. But clearly here, Stevenson is telling us that its mission, just like the mission of chiropractic is one thing, the mission of innate intelligence is to do only one thing, and that is to maintain the material of the body of a living thing in active organization. It is nothing else. And I think, again, for the purpose of the chiropractor in practice, that's so important that we can communicate that to people to make it clear, and not confuse it by giving it all these other characteristics that don't belong to it. I think that's an important distinction there.
Yeah, and I think that chiropractors have failed to communicate that idea to people. The fact that it says in principle number 21, the maintain the material of the body of a living thing in active organization, and that means a living thing. It means that we don't adjust cadavers because they're not living things, or they're no longer living things.
Right.
But as long as they have an innate intelligence, as long as they have one of the signs of an innate intelligence, then uh, we they need to have that innate intelligence expressing itself as fully as possible, and that seems to be a something that we as chiropractors can do for a person during their entire lifetime. Doesn't mean that they don't need anything else, and
Right.
it doesn't even mean that at some point in time uh, doing something else may be more beneficial to a person at a particular
Right.
point. And just like BJ had surgery at one point in his life to extend his life,
Mm-hmm.
uh, he decided to have surgery, and we as chiropractors may acknowledge the fact that a person may need something else. It's
Right.
just we recognize that we don't do that.
Right.
Now, in the beginning of chiropractic, at least in the state of Pennsylvania, chiropractors were prevented from doing things, treating medical conditions that were contagious or that could be uh, treated by a medical doctor, and so as to not upset the medical profession or to duplicate uh, the medical profession's objectives or the medical mission. Uh, the realize that we do have certain things that we do have in common with the medical profession, but our mission is not the same. Our mission is for every single person who has an innate intelligence, and maybe we didn't need to make the distinction between an innate intelligence and an educated intelligence, because there are some people that don't have an educated much of an educated intelligence, but they still, if they're breathing, they still have an innate intelligence, which means they need to have an adjustment. That doesn't necessarily mean that their educated intelligence is going to be better off. And I think that most people's educated intelligence is better off is if they understand a little bit more about what chiropractic is. And that's why we're going through these 33 principles, so that people can understand a little bit more, or at least chiropractors can understand a little bit more what the mission of chiropractic is. And granted, we may say that their educated intelligence may be better off, but then so will their liver be better off if there's a better innate expression through that liver. That doesn't mean that they will never have liver damage. Doesn't mean that if they abuse their liver, that they will not have problems in their liver. They still may do that. They may have to have some kind of medical procedure sometime for their liver, just like they may need to have some kind of medical attention at some time during their lifetime.
Well, that's an important thing for chiropractors to understand also, is that if a person does need those things, which there's a good chance, or there's at least a chance that a person might in their life, even if they're getting adjusted on a regular, every week basis forever, that doesn't mean chiropractic has failed. I think a lot of chiropractors have put this extra burden on themselves and on the profession of chiropractic, which is a unjustly burden, that if a person does have a need for medical care, it means chiropractic failed. And of course, that's not the case at all. There's things that can happen that are going to happen no matter what a person does. But we just want to, if a person eats healthy, they still might have a need for medical care. If a person exercises every single day and has the best positive mental attitude, they still might need medical care. It doesn't mean those things weren't beneficial or it was a waste of time to do those things. It's just sometimes things happen. And I think I see it a lot in chiropractic, where chiropractors, for lack of a better word, maybe lose faith in chiropractic because something bad happened and they think, oh, it doesn't work.
Right. Or they feel, well, maybe I need to add something more to chiropractic. And
chiropractic isn't enough. It's not.
Adding anything more to chiropractic is no longer making it chiropractic. And that's one of the things that we had in the mid 70s, when we said that, well, chiropractic is the correction of vertebral subluxations to allow the innate intelligence of the body to express itself more fully. And I think that was last night watching that baseball game, it was kind of made clear to me, because of this new player that we're paying $7 million a year for, whatever the price he's getting. First time he got up to bat, he had to face probably was the best pitcher, one of the best pitchers in baseball. And I think he struck out, and of course all the fans. He was in Washington. All the fans, they were excited about that because they thought he was a traitor, because he left Washington and now is playing for the rivals up the interstate highway miles. And so they booed him when the first time he came to bat, and he said that didn't bother him. He expected to do that, and he appreciated
that. The fact that he struck out doesn't mean it wasn't still a wise investment for Philly to take him. He's going to still be a good player.
Yeah, in fact, In fact, I think there were a few hundred Philly fans that they got on some buses and traveled down to Washington to watch the game
Sure.
last night, and they were chanting from the section in right field where they were all congregated. They were chanting, we got whatever his name is, we've got him. And even in he didn't look so good on the first couple times up the bat. He didn't look good, and then but he was playing well. The team was playing well, and he happened to be helping the team. And I think that's something that we need to understand in chiropractic, that even if an individual's hearing is not restored by getting chiropractic care, there's the innate intelligence of their body is expressing itself more fully, and whether it makes a difference in their life, a noticeable difference. Those cells are receiving more of an expression of the innate intelligence of that person's body. And as it turned out, I think the Phillies were ahead. And I think they were like by the score of 6-2, and even though he hadn't done anything, and then he hit a double and drove in a couple of runs, and finally in the eighth inning, hit one about 400 and some feet for a home run, and that put the Phillies ahead 8-2, and that's the way the score ended. Now I don't know that's going to make a difference in the team for the rest of the year. It was only the fourth game of the season, so we don't know, and the game does depend upon 9 other players.
You think about that too. You mentioned how in baseball the mission of the team is to win the World Series, of course, and it's more likely to happen if all the other players are also working towards that common goal. If you got some players who are just there to get a paycheck and don't really care how well the team does, and you got guys playing for themselves, it's less likely that they're going to be champs. But if they're all working together, the odds are going to go up. Doesn't mean they're going to get it, but the odds increase. And in chiropractic for our offices, it's the same way again. If the chiropractor is in their mind maybe thinking that the purpose of the adjustment is to allow the body's innate intelligence to better express itself, but if all the people coming in think that what's being done to them is something to make their low back pain go away, the success, so to speak, or accomplishing the mission for that chiropractor is going to be a lot lower because they're not on the same page. And so it's important that we get the people who are coming into our office on mission with us, that we communicate these things to them, because most importantly, when they understand it, it's going to benefit them in a huge, huge way, of course. So we got to be on the same page.
Yeah, I think that from what they were talking during the game, the announcers, of course, I was watching a Philly station, so I was hearing that perspective. And even though the fans down there were calling him a traitor for having left Washington, that didn't bother me any. And I think that he was kind of indicating that he wants to help the team do his part, and he will enable those other players to do their part too. There's one guy who now is one of the best hitters on the team, and they have him batting in the 8th position, which would be rather strange place for him to be. Probably if he played it in another team, he might bat 4th, but he was batting in the 8th position, and he walked 3 times during the game, because purposely he was walked because they wanted to work around him, and he actually hit a home run early in the game, and so they walked him the next couple of times up, and so that they could have to face only have to face the pitcher.
Right.
And this new player only bats on the third position because he's batting in that position because the fourth guy, they're going to have to work around. They can't work around. They can't walk him and let this other guy who was previously the best hitter on the team before this new fella came.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who still bats fourth, because now they got two in a row, and they got if they're going to pitch, if they're going to work around him. The next guy coming up was previously the best hitter on the team,
right.
And in fact, I heard a message in church talking about doing our part during, and the minister used the analogy of a relay race, and talked about how important it is to pass the baton to other people. And I think that we need to do that as chiropractors, pass the baton. That's partially what we're doing now, is hopefully I'm passing the baton on to you, and you're receiving it. And I can recall when I was in junior high school, I was on the relay team, and I had a mishap in a relay race.
In the exchange?
No, it wasn't in the exchange.
Oh.
I thought it was the exchange that other fella tripped me, but the coach said, "No, you just got your feet dangled up." After that, I happened to. I was running in the fourth position, and after that, I got moved up to the first position, and we got a new guy on the relay team who got the fourth position, and it made our team better. And I guess there was less chance of me getting my feet tangled up in running first position than running the anchor.
Yeah.
And so I think that all players are better off. And I think that's something that we don't realize in chiropractic, that when we give a chiropractic adjustment, every single cell in the body, if we've corrected the subluxation, all the cells in the body are working better now, are functioning at a higher level and higher capacity. And that's something that we need to do. And I think we need to realize that is our mission, and that mission should last for a lifetime. And if we try to correct subluxations, if we work to correcting subluxations, that even though we're not getting rid of a person's stomach problems or allergies or hay fever or whatever, we're still enabling their body to work at a little higher potential. And that really is our mission for every individual who comes into our office.
Right.
And so when a person walks out of our office, they're expressing more of the innate intelligence of their body, whether it's a noticeable difference or whether they feel like they're better off, or they give indication that their symptoms have gone away. That's not what our mission is. Our mission is to enable that body to work better. And we have confidence based upon these principles that we're looking at now. The body, there's a better, a more effective, active organization or life within that body. And one of my friends always used to say, "Well, I turn on life in people," and that's what my objective is. And I think that these chiropractors are trying to say that our objective is not to practice medicine. Our objective is to correct vertebral subluxations, to allow that body to work at a higher level of capacity. And that may not look like Coca-Cola, might not look like Pepsi Cola, but it's enabling that person's body to work better, and it has benefits that may not even be seen by certain people, or may not be visible or demonstrated.
Yeah.
But
And that's such a thing that I think it's people get that. I wish there was a way I could reach out to all the chiropractors and tell them, just explain to people, because people get it and they really love it, and they just sense the honesty of that and they appreciate that, versus, and we've talked about this before, but versus the approach of trying to tell them that you're going to make their sciatic pain go away, or whatever it might be, their headaches go away. They sense the honesty and the truthfulness of you telling them you don't do those things, you don't have control over that, but what I can do is this, and explain to them the benefits of having a healthy nervous system so that their body's innate intelligence can better express itself. They get that, and they see that that's a valuable thing. So it's so, I don't know, maybe frustrating is not the right word, but it's frustrating for me to see chiropractors who are struggling in a lot of ways, but also because they're just not willing to tell people those simple truths, because people do love it, people do appreciate it, and people get it. I think so many chiropractors, I've seen things on different posts on Facebook and just communicating to chiropractors, where they really, I think, underestimate the intelligence of people coming into their office. They think that they can't use words like subluxation because people, well, that's just confusing. Like, what? You're really insulting the people coming to you. It's not a confusing word if you explain it to them. Or you can't talk about innate intelligence because that's, again, it confuses things. And it's like, no, you're insulting the people who are coming to you. They're all plenty smart enough to get those concepts. So I think we need to have more faith in the intelligence of the people coming into us and understand that they're going to appreciate these simple concepts and really gravitate to them.
Yeah, getting back to the Coca-Cola and 7-Up analogy, people may choose to have cola, and they may think, well, that quenches my thirst more, or it gives me more energy, and of course we know the effects of caffeine on the body, and so they may feel like that they need that, they want that, and if they do, that's fine. But obviously, there's something that 7-Up has to offer to people that cola doesn't. And I think one of the advertisements for the 7-Up was that it has no caffeine, never has it, never will. And that was one of the promote things that they said. And I think that we as chiropractors should say, well, we correct vertebral subluxations because people need that, and it's not a matter
always have and always will.
Right, and it doesn't matter whether if you need caffeine, then maybe you need to drink a Coke also, but you also need what we have for you, and the what we have to offer. And I think that, unfortunately, a lot of people are just interested in the immediate changes that they can see. And that's how chiropractors got stuck with taking care of bad backs and stiff necks, because that seems to be the one thing that the most visible immediate change that chiropractors can create. Mm-hmm. And yet there's so much more to it when you realize that we are restoring the relationship between the material part of the body and the immaterial or non-material part of the body, the innate intelligence that keeps a person alive and will be with them for their entire lifetime, and needs to be expressed as fully as possible throughout the lifetime.
I think one thing you said there was important, again, to clarify on for maybe someone who's just watching this for the first time, is connecting the physical body with I think the word you said was non-physical, right?
Right.
Versus the quote that gets thrown out there a lot, which is connecting man the physical with man the spiritual. And that confuses things. And I know it's a BJ quote, but it's not technically accurate. He should have really said non-physical, because as we've discussed before, that spiritual thing is a connection between us and God, not something that we can help a person with.
Right. I used to I used to adjust children all the time, but I never adjusted animals because, and yet an animal has an innate intelligence. It doesn't have a spiritual part to them, but it
Right.
has a non-material part,
Yeah.
an innate intelligence. And my associate used to adjust animals. They can only come in certain times when when there weren't patients there because we didn't like the idea. And in the state of Pennsylvania, it's kind of questionable whether you could
Yeah.
adjust animals or not. But she said they have an innate intelligence, and so she would adjust them.
Right.
Uh, and
But they don't have a spirit, like you said. So that phrase of connecting, in that case, animal, the physical, with animal, the spiritual, doesn't make any sense because they don't have a spirit.
right, right.
They have
And
it.
if somebody would try to bring their dog to church on Sunday morning,
Right.
that would not be acceptable, unless, of course, I guess unless the church had seeing eye dogs that were,
Sure. Yeah.
but that's not relating to their spiritual need. It's
Right.
relating to non-physical need that the animal has, and that's why my associate had no problem with adjusting animals.
Sure.
Uh, as far as correcting the subluxations, because they do have subluxations, which does prevent the innate intelligence of the animal's body from maintaining the body in active organization.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
people did need that, and I think that's a good way. And I think that was one of the reasons why we enjoyed, why we saw so many children in the office, because they have younger bodies, and so the innate intelligence of their body can express itself fully, no more fully than a 80-year-old person,
Right.
but sometimes it's much more visible or demonstrable
Yeah.
in a person. And I had people come into the office, and their body began to work better and more effectively after an adjustment, and sometimes to the point of being visible and be able to be demonstrated. And I can recall once I had a, a chiropractic student come into the office for the first time. He was from out of town, and he brought his family with him. And he said, "Would you mind checking my my children?" And I said, "No, I'd be happy to." And so I checked the children, and after I adjusted one of his children, I think it was a little boy, he promptly threw up my in
Ah.
my adjusting room, and this kid was like humiliated because
Yeah. Right.
went to visit his chiropractor, and his kid did that in the adjusting room. I said, "No, this body was expressing the innate intelligence that it had,
Yeah.
and it was expressing it more fully, and it'll clean up."
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a philosophy lesson for the father and
Yes.
chiropractic student. So there's one chiropractor who got to understand the message, and maybe it was not the most pleasant message to get, but it was one that was demonstrated. And I think that happens so often, is that people see kids getting better and getting the body working more effectively by having subluxations corrected. It may be because the subluxation has not been there as long, or the body has more ability to express itself with getting the chiropractic adjustment. So I think it's important that we understand what that is. It's important that people understand that the chiropractic care is something that's vital for an entire lifetime.
Right.
And I
I think
imagine.
when you
Okay.
get these, when you communicate to people the things you're just speaking about there, and we teach them what the mission of innate intelligence is, that's one of the reasons why in your office you had all these kids coming in, because the parents understand that what it's for, that it's, hey, this mission of chiropractic is to allow my body to be at its best, and we do it by allowing the innate intelligence to better express itself. And it doesn't matter how old or young a person might be or what symptoms they might have, everybody can benefit from that. So as a result, when people get that, they naturally are going to want to have their kids come in and get adjusted, because they want them to experience that too. So it's just more reason why we want to make sure we can really understand and then communicate these principles to people, because it can have such a huge impact on their lives that way. So
Yeah, so I'll be interested in seeing what kind of impact this new player
there you go.
plays gives to the Phillies, and how he impacts upon the rest of the team. Surely the fellow who is batting after him in the lineup is having an impact. The fellow who is batting eighth is going to be impacted by
Right.
that chiropractor or that student or that ball player
Yeah.
who is batting in the third position, because he's
Yeah.
part of the team, and the success of the team is dependent upon all 9 players. So he's going to enable that player, and he indicated after the game that how happy he is to be in Philadelphia, and contrary to who was the who said, in his one written on his tombstone, I think it was W.C. Fields, said, he wanted on his tombstone, on the whole, I'd rather be in Philadelphia.
That's funny.
But so I don't know whether that fellow feels the same way about the
Yeah.
in Washington. I noticed there was some signs in the at the ballpark that and the fans cheered the first time he made an out. The fans cheered, and they I think the mayor of Washington had a poster of a picture of this ball player in a who was the Benedict Arnold.
Oh, traitor. Yes.
Yeah, and I think this fellow is now a traitor.
That's funny.
Traitor, and that's why the fans in 400 section we're saying we got him rather than
nice.
And I'm sure the people of in Great Britain didn't consider Benedict Arnold to be a
no, that's for sure.
but
Awesome.
it'll be interesting to see just how the team makes out. Whether maybe it won't.
Well, they're off to a good start.
And I think chiropractic, we can say, maybe the adjustment won't make enough difference. It won't allow the innate intelligence of the body to express itself more fully to a sufficient manner that it's going to make a difference in your physical well-being or your symptoms or your condition, but your body's going to work better, and
absolutely
your body work better with a good nerve supply, and that's what we offer. And people need that, and they need that for their entire lifetime, and that's the importance of chiropractic care for an entire lifetime for people. And I think if we get people to understand that message, understand that mission, that objective that we have, and say that that is a worthwhile objective, and people would say, yeah, I want that. I don't really care. And I've had many people come in my office, and get under chiropractic care and not see definite changes.
Symptomatic.
But they know that their body is working better,
right,
and they know that that's important for their life and their health. And
Right.
whether it makes a noticeable difference or not, for some people that doesn't make that's not necessary. They just know because the logic and what
Exactly.
the has told them and explained to them, and understanding how that body works better with a good nerve supply,
Yep.
and that they need that function at its maximum, regardless of what changes do take place or don't take place in their body. That they're better off with a good nerve supply, and
Right.
I think that's really the message of uh,
Principle 21.
21, and getting people to understand that is part of the message and part of the mission of chiropractors. And I think what we do in explaining those things and why we take the time to explain that principle to people and that mission to people and the chiropractic objective to people, it makes a difference in their lives. And
Perfect. I think
I
that's a
think I've taken enough time now,
no, that's
and
good. That's we got a good. That's what we want to have. We don't want to just brush over these things. We want to have a good understanding of them, and your wisdom and insight on these is much appreciated. So next time we'll hop into number 22.